Discuss this further. Mustafa Barghouti is the Secretary General of the Palestinian National Initiative. He joins us now live from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Good to have you on the program. So we have the UN now focusing on the rapid increase in human rights violations in the West Bank. What difference will this make, Mr. Barghouti?
Well, Israel is trying to conduct a war on the Palestinians in the West Bank, as they are conducting a war on Palestinians in Gaza. And in the West Bank, they are conducting a war on occupied people, which is a grave violation of every international law. But it's not just conducting a war on the Palestinian civilians, but also reoccupying basically West Bank completely, denying the Palestinian Authority any authority whatsoever, whether economic or political or security-wise. And in reality, we are now under full Israeli military occupation, and they are conducting terrible attacks on the civilian population. The attack with a drone on the young people in Tulkarem the other day was an attack on civilians who were not resisting in any way, who were just gathering together and walking in the street, and they bombarded them with a drone and killed the six of them, including a child. And that continues every day. Every person that is shot is deprived from medical assistance. It is a routine for Israeli army to leave the injured on the ground to bleed to death. And that is exactly what's happening in Jenin, what's happening in Tulkarem, and that's what happened yesterday in Ramallah as well. But worse than that, in the case of Tulkarem, the Israeli soldiers stopped an ambulance, and then soldiers entered the ambulance, and there was a injured person who was bleeding, and they stabbed him in the neck to make sure, inside the ambulance, to make sure that he will die.
Incredible.
This is the kind of behavior that nobody should ever accept. But the result is terrifying. So far, 512 Palestinians have been killed, 314 since the 7th of October, more than 3,000 Palestinians injured, and almost 5,000 Palestinians arrested in the West Bank since the 7th of October, bringing the total number of Palestinian prisoners to 8,000, living in very difficult conditions, oppressed in every possible way, tortured frequently, and ICRC is not allowed to visit them. Their lawyers are not allowed to visit them. It's a terrible situation. And that reminds me with the fact that Israel destroyed 102 ambulances in Gaza completely. They bombarded them. And in addition to that, they have killed more than 306 Palestinian doctors, nurses, and health professionals in Gaza, and injured many, many more.
So you say, Mr. Barghouti, that the occupied West Bank is under full Israeli occupation now. Where is the outrage for this? Because, of course, we understand why the eyes of the world are on Gaza right now, but so many atrocities are happening in the occupied West Bank.
The situation in both West Bank and Gaza is making the whole West, look absolutely incompetent and complicit with Israeli army and with Israeli occupation. Instead of condemning Israel for all these atrocities, for 56 years of military occupation, for 75 years of ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, for killing now in Gaza no less than 27,000 people, if we count the people under the rubble, including almost 12,000 children. They are condemning Palestinians instead of condemning the occupier. And when you compare the positions of the West in Ukraine with that here in Palestine, you can see the double standard. And not only the double standard, some of these countries, and in particular the United States of America, is not only complicit with these crimes, they are participating in them, providing Israel with all kinds of weapons and bombs, some of which, as Wall Street Journal reported today, some of which have killed more than 100 patients in each strike, 2,200 pounds bombs that are given from the United States to Israel. I think the situation is absolutely horrifying, and it is time for the whole international community to step in and enforce ceasefire on Israel, enforce the stop of all these atrocities against Palestinians, whether they live in the West Bank or in Gaza Strip.
Now, for the first time, we've been hearing that Israel's war cabinet is discussing post-war Gaza for the first time. What do you think is taking place in those talks?
I think the Israeli government is facing now a reality, which is that their attack on Gaza has failed drastically. They failed to demolish Hamas as they wanted. They failed to stop Palestinian resistance. And most important, they failed in their main goal, which is ethnic cleansing of all Palestinians from Gaza into the desert of Sinai in Egypt. And they are facing now a failure, that they are facing a lot of losses as well on of their army soldiers and their equipment. I think they have to face the reality now that their aggression caused so much terrible damage to the civilian population in Gaza, deprived them from everything, caused epidemics of diseases, killed so many people, but failed drastically in achieving its political goals. And it's time for for this war to stop. Israel has no right, neither Israel nor the United States of America or any other external force has any right to decide how Palestinians would run their affairs after the war in Gaza. This is a matter that should be in the hands of the Palestinian people, and Palestinians are the only ones who have the right to decide who should lead them and what sort of leadership they should have. And preferably, what we are calling for is a unified Palestinian national leadership and an interim national unity government that could take care of the needs of the people after all this damage that Israel has caused, preparing for free democratic elections eventually.
Mustafa Barghouti, thank you very much indeed for your time and your insights today on the NewsHour. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.